Hey guys, Ian here, and I wanted to show you the Fluval in cycle process. This is day 3 of the cycle. I've got everything hooked up. I got the AI Prime light hooked up. I got the Aquamai power head hooked up. Everything is in there. The rock's in there. That's pretty much how I'm going to have the scape. Stood up the tank late Sunday night and just started the cycle process. If you looked at my previous video, you'll see the issue I had with my RODI because I didn't properly flush it. So this is not using RODI water. However, I'm not overly concerned about that. The reason being is that the tank's got a cycle anyway. It's going to have an algae bloom anyway, right? This is a new tank. All the silicate and other chemicals and crap and the dry rock is all going to leach a whole bunch of crap into the water anyway. So the fact that this is not zero TDS water is probably the least of my concerns compared to everything else that's going on in here. That's why it's going through its cycle. So I didn't wait for the zero RODI water when I was putting all this other crap into it. I just decided, let's just go with the tap water. Got the auto top off hooked up. 2 holes drilled in this bucket with the Tunzi. A couple of things I had to do. The tank was not level. This stand is higher back there than it is up here, so I had to take a couple pieces of cardboard and shove them up underneath this tank to level that out. So the tank is now level at least. The auto top off was a little bit unique. I came from an auto top off world where I had a 60-gallon cube. I still have that tank. I have to put it back up, but and it was in the sump, so not really a big concern about the auto top off. This one's in the all-in-one is in the back here, and it's actually quite a ways down. It's about halfway down the well. I have to be cognizant because the heater's in here, and you can't let the heater get too exposed, because otherwise it has a propensity to break and not do good things. So the water level's a little bit lower than I would like right now, but every time I try to elevate the water level in this sump, the flow coming out of the tank is greater than the flow going in and going through the cartridges. So gravity feeds this, you can see the water going through the back there. Gravity pulls this in, this pump's pushing it out. The pump, even on the lowest setting, the Eheim, where I crank that valve all the way shut, is pushing water out faster than water's falling in and going through the sump. So that's the highest water level I can maintain right now, which is kind of like the minimum. Otherwise what happens is the sump drains really quickly, the auto top off kicks in to try to compensate and keeps putting more and more water into the tank, and this is about as high as I want it. As you can see, right there's the water line. So that's as high as I want it. I don't know if that Eheim pump, not the Eheim, the Aquamai, which is right here underneath the return pump nozzle, is actually going to live there. It's just there for now. I'll mess around with the flow more once I put coral and fish in there. Those are the ones that really needed right now for the cycle. I'm just letting it run. It was cloudy for a day or so, which is common with the sand. It's dissipated. I'm actually taking this little stick here and stirring the sand. It's important during the cycle to stir the sand. You want to get the sand to a point where when you stir it, it produces virtually no clouding. So this is the time when the tank is cycling, right? Who cares what it looks like? Stir it up, clear out the sponge, clear out the filter floss, make sure it traps all those particulates, so that way, when your sand bed gets disturbed later on, when you've got coral and fish in there, that you're not agitating them and you're not creating additional cloudiness, because you want it to be as clear as possible. Once I decide where this Aquamai is going to live, I'll probably notch out the back of this cover. Right now it's elevated on the back here, not sitting flush because the cord's got to come through. So I will clean that up because that's going to bother me. Otherwise, very happy with the Prime. It's a small light. From a, size of the light to size of tank ratio, it looks good. And it's all about this tank looking as good and clean as possible. It looks good. It's working just fine. Plenty of light. It's doing its thing. It's set up. It's ready to go. The Aquamai right now is just on some random flow or whatever. It's just blowing smoke around. The putty I used, it was stone gray. I didn't really look when I ordered it, so it's a little bit unsightly, but it'll get covered up with hopefully coralline and other stuff going forward. Coral, so I'm not, it is what it is at this point. It's in there. Pretty happy with the scape. We'll see if I add additional pieces, but I'm pretty much maxed out at this point in terms of the cycle. So a day or two ago, I tested the water, very high ammonia, no nitrites, which is the next step in it. Didn't even test the nitrates. Last night I tested the water, very high ammonia, decently high nitrite, nothing too crazy. If it was a cycle tank, I'd do a water change if I got a 0.2 reading, but nitrites, and then I had nitrates of about 5 or 10, I can't quite remember. So that's great. So we're in all 3 stages. So we have nitrifying bacteria working in there, converting some of that ammonia. We've got some nitrates as well. So I'm going to test it every day until I see the ammonia drop to 0 and the nitrites drop to 0 as well to move to nitrate. That'll be the end of the cycle. The only way to get the nitrates out is to deep sand bed, which I'm not doing, or do a water change. So at that point, I'll do a water change, hopefully with the RODI water, and then I'll maybe put a little bit more ammonia in there and just see how quickly it takes it out. I use the doctor's Tim's. It says to use 3 or 4 drops per gallon, so I think I did like 30 drops for the 13.5, so I did a little bit less than that. The directions used to be 1 drop per gallon, then they jacked it up to 4. I think the amount of drops I did is fine because the ammonia level's holding. So, we'll see how quickly the tank moves through the cycling process of the ammonia that I initially put in, processing those 30 drops of ammonia, and moves it to the nitrate cycle, do a water change, put some more drops of ammonia in there, and just see how quickly it can export and get rid of that stuff. Otherwise, it's just about cycling. It's a game of patience, as you guys know with these tanks. I did buy some nitrifying bacteria to jumpstart it. I want to see how well it does. I'll probably wait another day or 2, and if I feel like I need to add more nitrifying bacteria, I will. The population will build up over time. Excuse me, it's all a matter of just getting it there. Ideally, I would like to be able to start putting my first corals and maybe a fish or 2, which this tank system's only going to have like 2 or 3 fish, but by the end of the year. So right now it's December 5th, and the tank got stood up on December 2nd. So hopefully it'll move through the cycle in the next 2 or 3 weeks, and then I'll be able to stock it in time for Christmas. Not fully, but start the process. But anyway, I want to give you guys an update. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you on the next one.